then obviously I joined the program, and it was probably the best 8, 9 weeks of my life. Like,
What's up, everyone? Today I am here with Anthony Rondeau. He is originally from Canada, moved to Canberra, a high quality chef, absolutely kicking ass. He's come on to overcome the chaos, and he absolutely crushed the program. Some of the reflections, the articulation, some of the things that he wrote down was just like so incredibly powerful. And throughout the course and the leadership that he showed there and the decisions that he's been making in his life have been like seriously nothing short of amazing and impressive. And I had to get him on to share with you guys just some of the crazy lessons and reflections that he's had, because I believe if you guys know these reflections and things and you guys understand some of this stuff, then you can actually take this away into your own life and make a damn change, or make something even better, or get out of a hole or a rut or stuck on autopilot or something like that. So Anthony, I just want to say like a huge thank you and welcome coming on show.
thanks, man. Appreciate it. It's been a hell of a ride, that's for sure.
Yeah, for sure, man. Well, let's just like dive straight into like the overcome the chaos stuff. Is like, what are some of the, lessons and, applications and things that you learnt within the program that you've now since integrated, and what does that look like?
I mean, it goes deep. I think in order to understand what I got out of the program, it's important to understand what led me to actually reaching out to you and to wanting to join the program. I was feeling kind of lost. I knew something inside me. I had this like burning desire for something, and I had no idea what it was. It was eating away at me every day. There were so many situations throughout the past couple of years, obviously with COVID and lockdowns and these kind of things. And then earlier this year, I found out my grandmother back home, she had breast cancer. So all these emotions were kind of hitting me at once. And I was like, what am I doing with my life? Like, you know, surely I'm destined for more than this. I was kind of just going through the typical 9 to 5. I was succeeding in whatever capacity I chose, and but I was just stuck in the mundane, and it was killing me. Like, I know for some people it's all right, and actually most people I look around, in my everyday life, and they're completely content and happy with just that life. And they actually, when I bring up the concepts now that I've taken from Overcome the Chaos and I bring it up to them, it's so foreign to them, and they really don't understand that there is this beautiful life of like abundance out there, and they just can't fathom it. So all these things led me to, I saw an ad that you put on Instagram, and I just replied straight away. I was like, okay, I didn't see this by accident, like surely, I was feeling really, really something in my gut that day, and then I saw your ad, and I was like, oh shit. And actually during COVID as well, you were one of the people that really got me into holistic health and nutrition and these kind of things. I found you via that path anyway, and especially with NoFap and things like that, which maybe we'll get into later. That was one of the huge things. I heard your podcast, and I was like, okay, shit, this is some deep stuff. Like, I gotta follow this path here. But then obviously I joined the program, and it was probably the best 8, 9 weeks of my life. Like, um, it was, it's hard to put into words, obviously, everything that I experienced throughout that time. But I think leading up to actually joining the program, and getting to meet everyone through there, and yourself as well, and getting on those calls and things like that, I saw the world around me, and I was like, man, it's so depressing. Like, there's so much injustice, and there's so much cowardice and all these, different emotions. And, there was really a need for strong men, or a revival of strong men. Those that we've seen in the past, even, my grandfather, my father, I see all these strong men of the past, and where did they go all of a sudden, over the last couple of years? Like, it was really like kind of depressing. And throughout this time, I realized that actually the biggest inspiration is the injustice in the world, and that's what helps me strive to be a better person now, and being able to actually kind of find this duality, or understand the duality of this masculine and feminine in myself in order to move forward. I think has been the biggest change for me. There was so many parts of myself that I chose to neglect for a long time, because maybe I was ashamed, maybe I didn't understand them. And I think just going through the program and just being really vulnerable and hearing the vulnerability from other guys as well was something that really helped me move forward over the past little while. The biggest takeaway I would say from the program is just, and I know it's cliche, but just a different appreciation of life. Um, Appreciating the little moments, little things. I mean, just even now, like going outside and every morning I go for a walk and just smiling and just like feel the sun on yourself, hear birds chirping, like little things that just like, man, it feels so good to be alive. There's just like all these little things that happen that I never really appreciated before. And I don't know, I just have a new understanding of what it is to kind of to be alive.
Whoa, it's like falling back in love with life, eh?
A
And
little bit.
yeah. And like, where do you find now that, you've taken ownership?
I've definitely increased my discipline a lot. There are certain days. I mean, even today, I woke up and I was like, "Fuck, I'm tired." And I don't want to go to the gym, but it's become such an integral part of my life now that I didn't even think twice. I didn't want to do it. I really didn't want to do it, but I still got in there, did what I needed to do. Still went out for my walk in the morning, still did everything. So just I think there's a sense of accountability to myself. I've created a lot of non-negotiables in my life that I realize that no matter what, I just have to do these things. Otherwise, I'll be back on the path that I was before the program, and that's not something that I'm willing to do. I've put in all this work now. I've taken the step of investing in myself, and going to the gym is a great example. If you asked me 2.5 years ago before I came to Australia, I was always a fit guy. I played, competitive sport a lot of my life and stuff like that when I was a teenager and, early 20s. But then somewhere, along the line, I kind of fell off track. And yeah, just, a couple of years ago, I wasn't even, I was going to the gym maybe once every fortnight, something like that. And now it's every day. And so, this kind of discipline and this dedication, if applied long enough, it just has the greatest rewards, and I've completely transformed my health, my fitness, my body. When I look at myself now, I'm the happiest I've ever been. So, if I can apply that to other parts of my life, and obviously after the program, it's still, it was only about maybe 4 or 5 weeks ago now that I finished. I'm still adjusting. I'll be honest. I still have to really motivate myself to do a lot of things every day. But I babysat my way into kind of doing things, and I make it work for myself. So
Yeah, and we're not a health and fitness program at all, so it's like crazy
no,
to have these
yeah.
like results in like in those areas as well, sort of just when you sort yourself out and like, expand your own foundation. So like as you're just mentioning about like in my mind was coming up of terms of like, okay, I don't want to do this. Like there's a few things I don't want to do, but I also know that know my purpose. I know where passion is, and I know that I want to get to this stage or these goals, so I'm gonna have to do them. Is that correct? Is what I'm assuming there?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, again, like I created, it's for me, it's a non-negotiable. I have to do it. There is no other choice. For me, a big thing as well is like looking around at people in my own family and just the types of lives they're living, and nothing against anyone, obviously. Everyone's free to choose the life they want to live. But for me, it's just not satisfactory enough, the things that they do, and the path that would have been in their eyes acceptable for me to follow and to pursue. I mean, they all think I'm living a great life right now. I came to Australia, I have a good job, in their eyes, and everything was good. But for me, it's just like it's never enough. I'm obsessed with just becoming better now. Like I said, I've seen the results, that I can achieve just with physical health. Now it's time to translate that into other areas of my life as well. And I think I don't know, it's super exciting. Yeah.
Yeah, that's so motivating, man. And like, if you could teach, because everyone who's listening now is probably like engaged at the moment. And obviously, at the point where you finished to overcome the chaos, and I tell people this is like, you can't teach this to anyone because if they don't want to learn it, then they're never damn well going to learn it. They're never going to try to. They're never going to be willing to, even though it could be the best thing for them. But now we're on here and people are listening, they're probably open to receiving some of the knowledge that you've got. So it's like, what was in your mind and your shoes and your perception is if you could teach someone something, from Overcome the Chaos that you think would be extremely beneficial to them, like what would it be that you'd teach?
I think for myself personally, at least, there was two things that really stood out to me. One was the King, Warrior, Magician, Lover. Definitely, I realized that these four archetypes of our personality are so accurate. And I still find myself a lot in warrior mode, all the time. It's hard to snap out of that for sure. Um, but I think it's important for everybody to learn about these archetypes and really have this self analysis of themselves, and be able to identify the imbalance in their life, because I certainly struggle with that now. Like it's something that it's going to take a while for me to get over, but at least being conscious of it, I can really identify when I kind of fall victim to this every day, and I can course correct. And I can certainly say that in the last week or two, especially, even when I felt down or not motivated, I always found that sense of that inner king, because I knew I needed that. And I didn't even know what that was, 5 weeks ago or whatever. I think that was week 4, right, in the program. I didn't even know what that was. And now here I am with a different perspective on every action and every decision I make in my day-to-day life. I'm like almost hyper conscious of everything I do, which has been the biggest thing. So I think anyone, who really struggles with, like I did, kind of just going through life and not feeling any sense of purpose. That was a huge thing for me. Also, I realized I need a lot more danger in my life, and that's something that I'm definitely going to have to. I've kind of set some incremental goals from now until the end of the year to increase my level of danger in my day-to-day life. That's something I definitely identified through the program as well. That for a while I was just on cruise control, and I was enjoying life a little bit too much on easy mode. And yeah, it's time to step up a bit. So I encourage everyone to seek danger in whatever capacity they can.
Do you think that's like one of the main outcomes of the program? It's just like the ability to take better risks.
Definitely. And I think it's even deeper than that. It's really hard because I there's actually a lot of risks that I need to take right now, or that I want to take. But it's actually, I would say more calculated risks, I think, is a good way to put it. I think with the understanding that you receive through the program of yourself, you're able to really align your risks with the potential reward, and without any emotional bias, but just through kind of uh, just through logic. So it's a bit confusing right now because I have a lot of things that I need to do, and that was actually one of the worst things about finishing the program, is like it was so overwhelming. I had all these things in my head, and it was like, fuck. Like I actually felt kind of like sad for a minute. Like I was like, this is too much. I can't deal with this. And but then I was like, no, this is actually beautiful. Like I didn't even know about these things 8 weeks ago. So let's go. Like the only way is head on. But for a week there, I was kind of sad. Actually, on our call after the program, I was kind of sad. I was like, fuck, I don't know where I'm going now. But now it's, yeah, just everything's kind of aligned a lot better for sure.
Yeah. So now you're out there in the world on like the hero's journey. What's been like the troubles, the successes, the thoughts? Like what's your mind been thinking and how's it been playing out now that you've come in, you've put some structures in place and you're out there. What's like, how's your mind thinking and what's sort of the story's been since?
I think the biggest thing for me is really, um just being humble. I even with myself, like I before the program, I used to be really hard on myself, and even after, actually, like that 1 week, like I said, after, I was really hard on myself, and I never really appreciated all the small victories that I had along the way. Um, for me now, just even yesterday, I told myself, actually 2 days ago, because yesterday I had a day off, and I said, you know what? I'm really tired. I'm feeling like, I'm kind of burnt out. I'm just not going to set an alarm one day. And I hadn't done that in, I don't know, 6 months, 8 months, and I slept in, and when I say slept in, it was probably till like 9:30. I was like, fuck, like that felt so good just to actually, listen to my body, rest, recover. And I just felt great after. And I think the biggest thing is having this like constant but beautiful like internal dialogue of just understanding of myself, of others. I've been able to show a lot more love in leadership, especially at work and things like that, and the results have been amazing. And just even being able to share actually some content from yourself and other content creators, on Instagram with people that I'm really close to, and just the reception that I actually get from people being like, oh shit, that's so true. Like, but it's so foreign to them hearing this kind of stuff. And now I've opened up all these other discussions with people who otherwise probably never would have been on this path of thinking in this way. And I think for me it's actually really inspiring, that there's a shift in mentality, I feel, overall, amongst people. And it might be slow, and oftentimes, and I've referred to this as well in the program, and I think a lot of us felt this way. We feel like we're attacking the world as like lone wolves, and that's why we ultimately seeked out this community of Overcome the Chaos. But I think there is a shift in mentality that is happening, and I think it's really beautiful. I've been able to just have the most beautiful discussions recently with people just by being honestly really vulnerable and really open with them. And it's something that people are not used to, and they're kind of caught off guard at first, and then all of a sudden they feel this comfort of just being able to be vulnerable as well. And it just like it's the most genuine and like beautiful connection. And so I think for me, like humility has been a big thing after the program, and really understanding how to be humble as well.
Oh my God, man. That's like, that's so good, bro. Like maybe a little bit emotional, you saying all that. It's like, it's just pretty crazy to see. And, I'd really love to hear you talk about, during the program, if you think about like, the 8 to 9 to 10 or however many weeks that, because obviously everyone finishes at different times, but that you were actually in the ceremony of the program, there would have been, I'm assuming, just some moments or stories where there would have been at home, at work, talking to people in the program where you may have just like had a moment or a story to tell. Like this time when I was in Overcome the Chaos, like this happened, I had like this story in terms of like this thing here happened and I'll always remember it. Can you recall or have any stories to tell? As descriptive as possible.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I think, it's funny. I think it was the first week, or maybe it was the second week, but Dylan Pasco was in the program, and I had reached out to him because he just seemed very welcoming and like an open person. And mind you, at this point, I really didn't know anyone at all. So I'd reach out to him about. I know he was really vested in leadership, and he was crafting his program leadership, leading with love, I think it's called, and I'd reach out to him about, some issues that I've been having at work and things like that. And honestly, we exchanged maybe 2, 3 messages back and forth, nothing crazy. But I honestly saved everything he wrote because just how articulate he was and the understanding that he had. Now, mind you, he was about 6 or 7 weeks ahead of me in the program. So he had kind of already been through everything. And that really set the tone for the way I was able to lead after that, and the way I was able to go into my everyday life, not only at work, but just attack life with a bit more laser focus, I suppose, and just this understanding of what it is to love again. I'd lost that along the way, and that was something I identified. I spoke to you about before I actually joined the program. Is like, I miss this kind of love in my life and this kind of overall passion for life. But that was a huge thing for me, and it happened so early that I think it really set me up in a way to really succeed in the program and to really maximize what I got out of the program, out of the content. That was a huge moment. Um, and just along the way as well, I mean, there's so many little moments that you just hear, on these calls with all these guys who are just absolutely amazing. And being able to connect with people like that, I remember just leaving, like getting up from my desk every Wednesday night after the call and just going to cook my dinner and feeling like super happy and super inspired. And my dinner always tasted better. It's like that good energy always, kind of. I definitely believe in things like energy transfer and things like this. It's like that energy just transferred into my food after, and it was just unreal. All these little things happen, and then I would have these amazing conversations after the calls with my cousin and my auntie who I'm living with here in Canberra as well. And everything just flowed really like so beautifully after. So I think definitely that combo with Dylan to begin the program, that was a huge thing for me. I'd never really spoken to anyone like that before who was interested in the same kind of things I was about, like leading with a different approach. And definitely is very different than what I experience in my day-to-day life at work, that's for sure. Just a lack of love.
Have you got any examples of when you've like communicated differently, like at work or with friends?
For sure. For instance, now I show a lot more affection, like at work, just touching people, putting my arm around guys, just like I realize like it's actually sad, man. Like a lot of guys don't experience love. And it all starts from with each other. I think as men we love banter. I do especially. I talk a lot of shit to a lot of people at work, and that's especially the environment that I work in as well. It is kind of that environment. So, um, but now I've been really affectionate. I go around to people, I touch them a lot. I hug them always, and just yeah, men just need more love. And I realize that it's really sad. We're afraid to show it to each other, for whatever reason that is. I'm not really sure. I think it is a sense of insecurity. Maybe it's trying to perceive a certain image. I'm not really sure exactly, but I've realized just by going up to guys and having like just really vulnerable conversations with them, and being really kind of emotional with them, and getting to know them on a more personal level, asking about their families, about their siblings, how they're doing. A lot of the guys I work with as well are not born in Australia, so a lot of their families are overseas and things like that. It allows just such a more organic and beautiful relationship. And I just feel like all the bonds I have now are just a little bit deeper than they were before. So that's been really, really, really big. And I just continue that because it feels so good after. It's so rewarding. Who's gonna hate you after, or who's gonna be upset after you go and give them a hug, and ask, oh, how's your mom doing? Like it's just simple. Like it's beautiful.
And like within you, why do you think that is? Hi, everyone. Thank you for listening to these podcasts and applying these concepts to your life and sharing these with all your friends and on your stories. I am seriously so full of gratitude. I am currently experiencing one of the best phases of my life, and I just want to share this with you. If you know someone, or if you're a man who is at that stage of your life where you're unclear with what to do next and you are self-sacrificing to help everyone else, saying yes to everything, doubting yourself, suffering from imposter syndrome, or you can't find your purpose, so you're constantly distracting yourself with hobbies, working too much, other distractions, or a partner or an ex. We are running a group coaching program for ambitious men called Overcome the Chaos for you, especially if you are someone who wants to network with other professionals, get support, learn the tools, and stop holding yourself back from becoming the best version of yourself. The first half of life, the scariest thing is living at your full potential. The scariest thing at the second half of life is never actually taking the leap. So please send me a message on Instagram saying ready, or apply through my website, CoreyBoutwell.com, and we'll point you in the right direction.
I think even for myself, something that there's a lot of people, especially in a professional environment, I find, at least like typical professional environments, um, people care. People don't really care. You see this a lot in the world now, where employers don't really care about their employees. They just want you to come in, do the job. They have the mentality of, I'm paying you money, just do a job. But not realizing that, we're human beings. Like we all have shit going on in our lives. We're more complex than just our skill set. Um, and there's just a lack of overall compassion, I think, in the world now. And everything's super fast paced. I'll say Australia is a little bit slower, if you will, than North America, in the sense that it's not, New York City style, like fucking grinding, like chaos. Everyone here is a bit more laid back than North America, which I really love. And I definitely feel a lot more at home here than I do, because that's kind of my personality. Um, but I think overall there's just a lack of like understanding. Not a lot of people want to just take a step back, take a break, and ask simple questions, and get to know people better. It's like it's almost like as if it's too much effort. And I think the reason for that is because people don't even know themselves. How can you know someone else when you really don't know yourself? And that's what I realized through the program as well, is I stopped caring about others when I stopped caring about myself. And that's probably why I found it was so necessary to finally take that step and invest in myself again.
Wow, I'm just taking a moment to let that sink in. That was powerful words, man. And I have this question. I was on top of my head and I forgot it. I'm just trying to think about what it was again. I wanted to ask you about what your mind was like in terms of prior to the program, when you were thinking, I could have, I should have, I would have. Like, what were those what was that space like, and what did that look like before you know, took the saw the opportunity and took the decision to go, you know what, I'm actually going to invest in myself. Because there's one thing I find that, like, you know, girls do a little bit easier than guys is their ego isn't as large. So, and, you know, they haven't got this independence thing. So it's easier, you know, for them to make like these awesome decisions to go, I'm going to invest in me. I'm going to do these things and excel really quick. But for men, we go, you know, I'd do it all by myself. So for you, what was the, you know, the I could have, I should have, I would have, you know, I could be this, I could be that. And then the shift between like, no, I'm investing in myself now.
So a couple things happened. Definitely in the beginning of this year, I think it was about April, March or April, when I found out that my grandmother had cancer back home. And something really hit me of why am I not able to, you know, at this point in my life, at the age that I am, why am I not able to send her to, you know, the best doctors in America or something along these lines that went through my head. And I didn't get sad or depressed about it, but I actually I it caused me to reflect of like, why am I not successful enough? Now, mind you, this woman had she basically raised me, my brother, my sister, and some of my cousins as well. She actually quit her job the day that my mother finished her maternity leave because she didn't want any of her grandchildren to be in a daycare or anything like that. It's just not her style. So she basically gave up her whole life, or the you know middle of her life, to look after us as her grandchildren. And I couldn't even repay her when she needed it most. In my mind, that's the way it was. Now she ended up getting really good doctors and stuff like that, and so she's all good now. But you know, in that moment, I was like, what am I doing? You know, like really, like she gave me all these opportunities. You know, she emigrated to Canada, uh, worked super hard her whole life. You know, got my dad in, you know, my dad was the first person in the family to go to university, all these big things. He has a really good job. And I was like, what am I doing? Am I like, you know, why is my lineage now going down? Like, this is not right. Like, that's not, no organism works in that way. Organisms only, you know, whatever it is, any animal works to get stronger through every generation, right? Why is that not happening for me? You know, I took this really personal, really deep, very like philosophically minded, as you know, and it really struck me. And I was like, I should be this, I could have been this, I shouldn't have been doing this, you know, I should have been partying and doing drugs and, you know, chasing whatever, you know. And but then I was like, you know what? No matter how much I worry, I can't change the past. So let's move forward in whatever way possible. And I was actually on a good path until this point. Like I said, I've been focusing on my health for the past couple of years. You know, I have a really good diet, really good routine, all these kind of things. But there was just something missing, and then that's when you kind of like popped into my life, and you know, here we are. So that was kind of everything like leading up to that. That was the tipping point for me. I think it was the whole situation with my grandmother, and just having this moment of internalization and a little feeling, you know, all kind of emotions like regret and just not being worthy and just all these really deep emotions that I had never really felt before.
It's very interesting you come on that, because there's one thing that I preach and like obviously talk about a lot is like emotional intelligence, and obviously coming from a place of like, well, if you have the self-awareness of it, then you can make the different decisions and you can do all those, you know, amazing things. So now I've been on the end of things in terms of having the level of self-awareness that you've got. Is like, one, what does that self-awareness look like? And then two, it's like, now how do you apply it to, you know, any other situations that are negative or positive otherwise?
So I think the biggest thing that I learned through the program as well and Overcome the Chaos was the power of visualization and being able to really. I realized that before the program, I had never really, you know, I had all these lofty goals and ambitions and dreams, but I never actually visualized what the path was to really take me there and what that future version of myself would look like. So for me now, I spent a lot of time doing that, and I think it was week 8 where you have that 10-minute visualization, right, to end the program. Um, and in those 10 minutes, I remember experiencing like a lot of different like emotions and feelings and all this kind of stuff. Now, mind you, I do meditate like just once a day, like 10 minutes a day, very, very brief. So I kind of have that moment of being able to visualize things as well. Um, but for me, I think the biggest thing I took out of the program is really allocating the time to visualize what I'm doing, where I'm going, and that honestly provides me with enough kind of inspiration to move forward. I think of how happy it would make, my parents and my grandparents or whoever it is, even just myself, to be able to fulfill certain obligations, goals, and chase certain dreams. And I think it's never been actually easier. That's the funny thing I've realized through everything, through this whole program is I went into this program thinking like, man, like this is crazy, life is hard, I don't know where to go. And then I left thinking like, actually, we live in this like the most abundant age possible. And there everything is at your fingertips, like guys are making like, excuse my language, but like fuck you money on their laptop, like you don't even have to leave your bedroom to be rich or successful anymore if that's what you're chasing, obviously. And you know it, there's no excuse really in this day and age to be able to achieve whatever you want. I think the program is a great example. Never in my wildest dreams did I think that I was going to come to Australia and meet guys from all over the country and network with guys from all over the country in this manner. I thought I was literally going to be backpacking and find people that way. But little did I know that, as fate would have it, this is the path that was chosen for me. So I think, yeah, the power of visualization, going back to that, is super important. And I take time, maybe not every day, but certainly I think it happens kind of indirectly when I journal as well a lot of the time. Um, I've definitely taken time to journal every day of like things I appreciate, things I'm grateful for, just things like that. And it's been a huge change in the way that I start my day and the way that I'm able to kind of I find that I'm a lot more proactive instead of reactive now in my day-to-day life.
Damn, that's powerful, man. Oh God, I love that. And like, obviously we live in an online world, you know what I mean? Like there's so much online, especially in Western societies. There's so much of this online like stuff happening in online communities, and actually bonding with people online and meeting and learning these things. Cause like you go to a university now and it's like all of it's online. If you want to go learn something, like you go to a uni, it's like, oh, I'm doing it online in my own time. And then you forget, with adult learning, it's like, okay, anything I want, anything that I need to sort out is, literally I can just do something online and pay attention. Like there's one thing I think that we do, like a culture that we've created, and please correct me if I'm wrong, is like, we don't go and skip through things 100,000 million times. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, we're here to learn some stuff, and we're going to learn it to the nth degree. Every single
Adam Green.
word. Hang on, my phone's ringing. So yeah, so which I think is like really powerful that now we actually move forward and take time to learn all the hard stuff and learn all the good things as well, so that we can integrate it, which I think is just so powerful and can be missing. And then, like as you mentioned beforehand, you meet so many people, and like some of the community and the culture that we've created, which sort of has just happened. No like intention for it in terms of like support and moving forward and lifting each other up has been, it's sort of insane to see. So I'd love to hear like, your experience around, what do you think the benefits of, being a part of an online community, and then also, some of the benefits of, overcome the chaos specifically.
Yeah, I think Overcome the Chaos in general, it actually really inspired me to learn again. I was definitely not the best student in school. I really didn't give a shit. I knew it was all. I mean, in my opinion, like when I was sitting there, I was like, "Fuck, this is bullshit." Like they're telling me if I don't get good grades, I'm gonna go nowhere in life. Like, yeah, right. I'll show you. Like I was I never believed it for a second, whatever they were teaching. And um, I didn't know. Obviously, 10, 15 years ago, and we never knew what the internet would be like and the capacity that it would have grown like it is today, but um, and the role that I guess it would play in our lives. But at the same time, I knew they were lying, and I was always a bit of a bit of a I would rebel. I don't even think I knew why I was rebelling. I did it because probably I was an angsty teenager and I was just like, oh, shut up, like I'll do whatever I want. I was never really understood, even at home in my personal life as well. But I always was interested in the things I was interested in, and I always went really deep into things I was interested in. And I remember, like, even though I hated school and I hated learning about math and science and whatever, I became really good at those things once I started cooking. And I was like, okay, everything's equations. Everything is like I do a lot of quick math in my my everyday life, and now I'm super proficient in math. Like, I mean, not anything crazy, not calculus or anything like that, but just basic day-to-day stuff. Like, I smash it every day, and I never thought I'd be that way in grade 10 when I was like 15 years old, and my teacher was like, okay, maybe we should put you in this lower program for all like the whatever the people who had like learning disabilities and stuff, and but I think when you're engaged in a community that really aligns with your values, like Overcome the Chaos did, and even um, like I said, it wasn't an accident that I found you as a mentor instead of others, because I was already very like philosophically inclined, and then I started seeing all the Nietzsche stuff, and I was like, yo, this is dope. Like, this is exactly this is my style, and then Bronze Age mindset and all these things, and like whatever Kierkegaard, all this stuff. Like, this is stuff that I already had like kind of a foundation in. So when this information was presented in the way that it was, I think it was like I was really able to take a lot out of it. And that might not be the same for everybody listening or everybody that joins the program. I totally understand. I know a lot of guys are not really into philosophy and things like that. Um, but at the same time, I think the way that you structured everything is just killer. Everything led like really seamlessly and beautifully from one week to the next. And I just, yeah, I really can't express enough. I've told so many people even back home about the program and just like things that I've been doing and things like this. And it's really hard to put into words, unless you experience it. Like anything, right? I mean, it's like taking a photo on Instagram at like, in some beautiful, like, whatever World Heritage site or something. It's like you can't really imagine what that's like, right? It's just you see this snapshot and you're like, oh yeah, oh, it's beautiful. But like, do you really understand? Like, no, of course not, right? Um, so yeah, I think definitely the way that the information was presented was just for me like first class. It aligned exactly with kind of my learning style, and I think that's what really inspired me to start learning again, and to continue on this path really going forward.
How cool is it when like learning actually becomes fun again? Hey, like when it's like I'm gonna learn, and like you just consistently expanding and growing and knowing how you think is different, and then you actually start changing as a person. Like it's so insane to see, and I've seen like you do it, like you just went, which was crazy. And I got like two questions. The first thing is like it's hard to explain to people what it's like. But what people do understand is outcomes. So in terms of like, okay, here's some of the outcomes, like this is what happens, like once you've done it. I'd love to talk about those. And then the second is I'd love to, hear your thoughts in terms of just like the community that we've got.
So for the outcome, it it's super interesting because I think outcome is like purpose, like it changes all the time. And the outcome is constantly evolving. My outcome after week one or week two or even three or four, whatever it was completely different. And after every week, I'd have this idea in my head of like, okay, this is the way I'm going to approach this situation. This is the way I'm going to tackle this in my life. This is the way I'm going to move forward. And then I would do like another week of the program, and I was like, okay, wait, course correct. Let's actually take this approach. This is more reasonable. Now I understand this part of myself better. Let's go this way. So it was constantly this evolution, and I think that is the beauty of it. I don't think anybody, and what I've realized for myself as well is for a long time I was very like dogmatic about my beliefs. I was very set in my ways, and I was like, okay, this is the way. It's very straightforward. Just go on this path. Um, and then the best thing I ever did was actually listen to others. Every successful person that I had found had a lot of great teachers and mentors and things behind them, and I never had that in my life. And so I had a lot of good examples, obviously, but I didn't really have anybody that I really resonated with on a really deep level. And I realized that before joining the program and getting to meet a lot of very different and inspiring people from very different walks of life as well, mind you. It completely changed the way I look at outcome now. And I think even the outcome that I envision now, I think maybe next month it'll be different, and then month after that it'll be different. And just for instance, like obviously, as like in week six, the event that I talked about in Create Yourself, we've been doing that now. I actually have another tasting tonight for my event,
Woo!
and
Oh, that's
it's
so
been
exciting, man.
it's been like I had this idea in my head of like, oh, this is like easy, like this day we'll do this day we'll do this. Like, fuck no, it doesn't work. Life doesn't work like that. There's so many obstacles that happen along the way, little things, and then like things don't work out, and then people can't commit to certain things, and like, oh fuck, it's been a bit of a roller coaster, but you just keep moving forward, and the outcome
Yourself.
slightly, yeah, the outcome slightly changes, but you know what, it actually gets better every time. All those obstacles and all those workarounds, they actually just refine your vision a lot more. So I think one thing I've definitely really allowed myself to do as well now is be open to the idea of failure more, and just fail as much as possible. And it doesn't really matter. Like, does it? Like, who cares? Like, like, so what? What's the worst that can happen? And you're not talking about failure from literally jumping off a cliff. You're talking about just like kind of, I don't know, like failure in your day-to-day life. Like, oh, I don't do something perfect. Okay, so do it again. It's
Yeah.
not.
But you know why? Like you've got that, which I thought was so awesome, was you did all of the inner work, obviously in the first like few weeks of the program. Like we figure it all out, then we help you like implement it later on and then get really clear on exactly what you're doing. And then you made this big decision to like literally 100x yourself. You're like, hey, I'm currently doing this. I have no idea, what to do. Should I do this? Should I do that? Should I do this? Should I do that? And after all the things, you're like, okay, this is one thing that I love doing. I'm going to do. And I'm 100% committed to that and dedicated to that. And there's nothing that's going to stop me from getting there. You're not weighing up this, you're not weighing up that. And now you're in the realm of the unknown. You're on a new hero's journey with a sense of adventure and thrill and, creating this, chef and restaurant food experience. I'm not sure what it was, but, Anthony's creating this, like really stretching himself in a chef, in a chef's point of view, and creating like a whole event where people are like tasting, a whole lot of local amazing like produce that he's putting on for a lot of people, and it's like it's really high quality, and it's forcing him to learn the different skills and do all the different things. And it's like, that's amazing to see that you landed on that. You understood how it's going to stretch you, as well as mentioned beforehand, as a leader, as an individual, as a chef, as organizing. Yes, it's hard. Yes, there's going to be fails, as you mentioned, but like you're having fun.
It's really funny. I think when I actually drafted this idea of this event and everything that I was about to embark on, I actually had no idea what the fuck I was doing. I was like, this is going to be amazing because it feels right. But it was only actually after I did it, and I actually took in the depth of what I had committed to. But mind you, now it's beautiful because, and that's one thing I will say about the program, but Overcome the Chaos, is you have this community now, and this is like the best way to stay accountable ever. You've just verbalized an idea to 20 or 30 other guys, and you can't go back on your word now. Like there's you have no choice but to move forward, right? And now if I had just kind of created this idea in my head and said I was going to do this but didn't actually tell anyone, I probably would have taken the easy way out and be like, ah, it's too much stress, like forget it, maybe next time, and maybe when the circumstances are a bit easier or whatever. But now I've gone and told all you guys that, like, hey, this is what we're doing. And in the meantime, I've reached out to other people in the community and been like, hey, this is what we're gonna do. This is the way it's gonna be structured. Blah blah blah. And now, yeah, the only way is forward. Like, there's no other choice, and that's great. There's failure is not an option at this point. I mean, there might be little failures along the way, like we said, but you can rebound from those. But ultimately, for I guess in the long run for the goal, there's no failure. It's impossible now. It's
You're
can't go
gonna
back.
you're gonna win, and that's it. Like there's no.
Yeah, you have to.
You've got, yeah, you have to. It's like you've 100% committed to it. At some point,
Yeah,
it's a win. Like there's a million different ways for things to succeed, and there's always one way for things to fail, and the only difference is like your commitment or not. Like that's
right.
yeah. I just want to like finish on one thing as well, because I love talking about this. That it was like in the actual program was we help you really find your purpose in week one and sort of like re-solidify. Even if you know what your purpose is or whatever it is, or you don't know what it is, we get it like clear on what it is, and then it evolves throughout the progress because you change throughout the program. So obviously your purpose is going to change throughout the program. Some people stay the same, some people doesn't. But I didn't realize that this was happening, but people outside the program would tell. One of the challenges we have is to tell someone your purpose, right? We believe in high level accountability, making sure putting yourself in a situation or environment where now you have to do what you said you're going to do. And there's no ifs and buts about it. Like, sorry if it's scary, you're doing it. And we start that by telling someone your purpose, and people tell people the purpose and have different reactions. But I find the stories are so funny. I'd love for you if there was an experience where you had to tell someone your purpose, either outside the program, within the program, whatever it was, and sort of what what their reaction was like, and what it was like when you, firstly for you internally, having to tell someone what that is in terms of like the vulnerability, then also what like their reactions were.
So I have a couple interesting stories with this. I work with a couple younger guys. They're like 16, 17 years old. And I've been really working on, I've made it my priority. From the minute I met them and I found, I found out how old they were, I'm like, okay, like these guys are mine. I'm gonna make them into good quality men. This is the perfect age to indoctrinate them, right? But in the best way possible, right? And make them into like high quality men. That's where I realized like I really went wrong in my life when I was like, in my late teens and I kind of got, off track of like what I should be doing. So I was like, let me point these guys in the right direction and just uplift them. And I realized that, when I had said it to them and they when I asked them, hey, like, do you have a purpose in life? And like at 16, 17 years old, you don't understand that concept. I don't think. I think it's really hard to. And, going back and forth and when I told them, I realized for me, now my purpose pertains to, or my purpose is, to step into my king and to step into my king of my ancestry and inspire future generations. And I always, like I've spoken about so many times before, my ancestry, my lineage, my ancestors, like it's super important to me. I have a lot of like really good family values, and I was raised that way. And I realize a lot of people now, a lot of younger generation, and including my generation as well, are super disconnected from where they came from, and they don't understand that you are a result of so much sacrifice that had happened in order for you to be here. And especially now when kids are really involved in just a virtual world, they have no idea. They A lot of them have never even talked to someone over the age of like 60 or 65, and never really had that connection with an older generation or with seniors. And for me, that's that when I talk to these kids, they were just like, oh yeah, like, and all these guys went home and they came back to me and they were like, oh yeah, my mom is from here and my dad came from here and my grandma like did this, and they came to Australia then and like whatever, and all these things. And like, they found this. Even if they didn't realize it, I know that somewhere down the line they were this will be a huge part of their life, that they will realize that, what, you're not here by accident. You are a result of a lot of hard work. And it's your job now to take that torch and to move it forward and to be able to provide that for the next generation, like that, and which is my plan as well, obviously. I came to the realization a bit later in my life, but it doesn't mean obviously that I can't do it. But for them, I hope that it really inspires them and gives them an idea of what their purpose can be moving forward.
So good, man. And for everyone who's listening at the moment, where can they find you, reach out to you, figure out where your event is, etc.
So I'm really only on Instagram. You can find me Anthony C. Rondo, last name spelled Rondeau. And yeah, that's really it, man. The event, I will be publishing everything kind of on there probably by next week or so. Once we finalize everything, venue's been secured, food's been secured. It's just kind of like going over the menu now before we do everything, and we're drafting some promotional material right now. And then yeah, so we'll be having an event at the end of hopefully October. Just all local produce here in Canberra or around the ACT, and yeah, just all inspired by kind of the food that I grew up eating. So should be good, man.
So insane, man. Man, so proud of you going out there and doing that stuff. And I like to leave all the listeners with one challenge. So something that we've talked about, or something that you'd like to challenge them with, or take an action today, tomorrow, this week, whatever it is. What is the challenge that you'd like to give someone?
I would love for everyone to actually take a moment, go to whoever you can, whether it's your parents, your grandparents, whatever, and ask them a little bit about their life. Where they came from, any hardships they had to really struggle with in order for you to be here. I think once we have an understanding of the past, our future is just like the most beautiful, optimistic, dream that can ever be possible. So I know it was huge for me, and I think it's something that's often overlooked. So I encourage everybody to understand their ancestry a bit better, or their ancestors, and yeah, and the struggle that they faced.
So powerful, man. And for anyone who's listening who's interested in Overcome the Chaos, you can head into my Instagram and message me. If not, by now you're listening to this, I should have like a website up in terms of finding the catalog. You can go find the program and you can buy. We only take a certain amount of people in per month to Overcome the Chaos, and then we cap that depending on the amount of coaches and stuff that we have. So if you're on the fence right now, it's reach out now, get sorted, see if it's a good fit for you. It may not be. We don't let everyone in. We only let people who we think is going to be a real good fit and we can help. So it might be worth having a chat, or if you know it's 100% you, filling out an application and then clicking buy, and we'll see if it happens. So big love, guys. Thank you so much for coming on, Anthony, and sharing all this stuff, man. It's been absolutely amazing. And peace. Hope you guys have an amazing day.
Pleasure, man. See ya.